Alright, this annoying French guy, I guess we'll call him Philippe or something, Tranquil87. So he's made some stupid video, basically whining that I won't respond to his brilliant counter arguments. So whatever, yeah, okay. So you beg for it, I'll give it to you. But man, you're really not worth the trouble. First off, your video quality sucks. The volume's too low. Second, you are rambly and incoherent way too often. You're tedious to listen to. There. And then your argumentation is just rubbish. Just rubbish. It's just absolute fucking rubbish. Jeez.
So I was just watching Piro's video to Gary, titled Second by Second, and in about 12 minutes there is a talk about Gary's analogy that giving life is gambling with someone else's money, and it got me thinking.
Oh dear.
And I don't like this analogy very much.
Yeah, well, you totally ignored the analogy, and it's also an analogy in the context of other analogies that involve something called, risk assignment, where you're assigning risk to some innocent third party. That's the idea. So you can make the analogy of the speeding police car. For what good cause does there have to exist for a cop to justify going down a road at 150 miles an hour and potentially wiping somebody out, or a fireman, or some other thing, right? It's about risk assignment, all right? And that's what the gambling analogy was, but apparently you can't understand it at all. A new human being is a new human being. Can you grasp this concept? That before birth, it neither wins or loses. It's in a completely neutral position. All right? And then when somebody injects it into this world, it can either be a winner or a loser. All right? And no, it never asked somebody to assign it one of those categories. You can't understand that?
For a few reasons. First of all, it implies that we're taking when we give birth. And just before I get into it, I'm not trying to justify a nihilism position.
Well, I'm sorry. What your argumentation has that written all over it. And the only argument you can make against natalism is the fact that it is involving an innocent victim. So if you don't assign the idea of the person who gets born as having some sort of rights, then how could you have an argument against natalism? Moron.
People who have never seen my videos, that's not what I'm doing. Just for the sake of argument, I'm trying to build this this analogy in a way that I actually see it.
Yeah, well, apparently you don't know what gambling is, right? You don't know what risk is. So look, if I have to change it every 5 minutes, if I have to give you, like I even said it in one video, do you need all 17 million examples of wrongful risk assignment? Let's say I build nuclear power plants, all right, and I put them on people's property. And let's say all the people live far enough away from each other that it only impacts the person who I have property right next door to. And I put my plant right next door to him, all right, and 1 in 1,000 of those plants blows up, goes bad, and irradiates the guy next door. Now, what is that person's rights? They never asked to have a neighbor who builds nuclear power plants. They never asked for that risk to be imposed upon them. Do they have any right to say, you can't do this to me?
He's arguing that we are gambling with someone else's money. But for that to happen, we would have to be taking from somebody.
Well, then you're a retard again. How is it exactly? You don't take, but you will create. You don't understand the word create? That's what people do when they give birth. They create. Okay? They don't take, they create. Oh, idiot.
Using it for our own purpose. Which is not what
Yeah. They create a new human being, and often, most of the time, all of their motivation is selfish. They're creating it, expecting it to do something for them. Essentially make them feel better about their life, or to give them a mission in their life, or to do some other kind of bullshit like that. They're not having the kid to put out a fire next door. They're not having the kid to go cure cancer. They're not having the kid to do anything else in the world of constructive use except serve some need they have.
Well, we're giving life. We're giving life.
Well, that little bit of jargon has absolutely no philosophical meaning, okay? Where is it written on a stone somewhere that life is a gift? Is that a premise of your argument? I must accept the idea that life is a gift, okay? That's the law of the universe, just like the speed of light. Life is a gift. No, I don't think you can do that, asshole. So I guess, again, you basically break the premise of the argument that's been established over and over and over again, okay? The premise of the argument is that there's no God, there's no creator, life is not a gift, it's something people decide to do. They decide to conduct a biological experiment and throw it into the world. Maybe it'll be Albert Einstein, maybe it'll be Adolf Hitler. But the point is they take on that job onto themselves, okay, and they don't have to have a license, and they don't have to fill out an environmental impact statement. They don't have to do a goddamn thing but say, I'm going to have a kid.
Gift. And whether it's a positive or negative gift is I believe, first of all, dependent on the environment where the child will grow.
Well, that doesn't even hold true in all cases. You can be born in fucking Harlem and still become a great human being or have a great life. So that doesn't really hold all the time true. But yes, of course, that's part of the odds. That's part of the risk assessment. That's part of understanding what is the real liabilities here. So if you have crappy genetics and you have alcoholics in your family and you have all these other things that you could add up and say these are all risks that you're assigning on this new individual. Now, do you have a right to take all of these chances? Do you have a right to enter them in all these negative fucking lotteries? That's the fucking ethical question. Where did you take on this right? Again, what's your license? What's your statement of qualification to decide to impose that risk?
How good of a shot he has in life to thrive, to flourish, I guess, without too many difficulties. And so, with that in mind, I would think that we're kind of staking in gambling terminology. That's what the term is when we give money to a gambler so that he can go play.
Look, idiot. Okay, a fucking fetus does not give their parents a stake. Okay, the non-existent entity doesn't sit there in the non-existent place and fill out a fucking statement saying, oh yeah, you may gamble this much money. Here's a stake. I'm giving you the stake to play with. Alright, that's the whole fucking point. There is no stake. Okay, so it is a taking. Alright, they're taking the right to assign the risk, to gamble with the welfare, to tie the kid in the rickety roller coaster. I've used these other analogies, so there's no way you have any excuse for fucking this context up. Okay? The idea isn't that they're playing with stake money. They're playing with something else's welfare, fucker.
And if he loses, well, he doesn't owe you anything, generally. You staked the person, you gave him the money so he could go play. And generally...
So you don't see the huge flaw in what you just did to the analogy. You basically said the fetus gave them the stake, gave them the rights, gave them a contract saying, go ahead and gamble with my welfare. It wasn't the parents' decision to have a child. Now you're saying it was the fetus's choice to be the victim. It chose to take on the risk. It made a conscientious, what's the word they use for a qualified decision, a competent decision. The fetus made a competent decision to assign away its rights and give them to fucking idiot parents to play a game with its welfare and give it spina bifida or ALS or autism. Yeah, it gave them the right to do that. Fuck you, idiot.
When he wins, he gives back to you. He gives back the money to you, or, with a profit or something. but that's what it is. You're staking the person, except the person can only give back to you in. The person can give back to you. The person can give back to life itself. The person can never.
You don't see how this is like an unthoughtful, useless waste of my fucking time? The person can't give back to life? What the fuck does that mean, idiot? Alright, so you sit there and plead for a fucking response. How am I supposed to respond to babble like that? You're just wasting my fucking life with crap like that.
Back the gift that's been given to him.
So again, you can't operate with this premise. Giving somebody cancer at 6 years old is not a fucking gift. Giving somebody the gift of retardation is not a fucking gift, asshole. I mean, that's an idiotic premise.
It's his life. The person can only give back to the people who, well, to pretty much anybody, but for the most part, to the people who gave him birth. This is his way of showing that he appreciated the gift of life. On the other side,
yeah, right. So I mean, you're making me root for serial killers, all right? Because yeah, they're giving back exactly what you motherfuckers deserve. All right, you deserve a fucking knife in your goddamn necks. How dare you? Okay, how dare you assume a child owes parents a motherfucking thing? I mean, it's disgusting.
He didn't like his life. Then he didn't like the game. He didn't like the game.
He didn't like the nuclear power plant that blew up next door to him because somebody else assigned a risk on him that he never agreed to. He didn't like the cop that ran over his kid on the street, okay, because the cop was running to fucking Friendly's to get a fucking ice cream cone, okay? Not to save a life, not to pull somebody from a fire, but to get a fucking ice cream cone, all right? It's this whole idea of assigning risk. You don't have a right to wake the fucking dead, and that's what having a goddamn kid is. You're just saying, I'm going to use my zombie juice and make that thing alive again. You don't have a right to do that. You're not qualified to play God.
Figures that he went in a game that was rigged against him. A pointless game or something. So his option is to stay in the game or to get out, which would be suicide.
Oh, so again, we have the same, we can go back to the other drunk driving analogy then. So the drunk drives into your living room, smashes you against the wall, and then hands you a .45 to blow your brains out. And you're supposed to say what? No, I think what you do is you point the fucking gun at the bastard and shoot him first before you take yourself out. Fuck you.
And so, in which case, we would be saying that he would have rather not be given that gift or that stake. He didn't want to play the game. So I think for me it would be more about whether or not we should give the stake, give the person the money to go gamble. And the way that I see it right now is...
Well, who cares how you see it right now? I mean, if you don't have a formulated understanding of this subject, again, then you're just wasting my fucking time. Alright? There are lots and lots of other analogies I can give you. Just think about nuclear power plants. Okay? And how you assign risk. And is it fair to assign that risk?
If I was to give someone a stake to go play the game, I would want to be sure that the game is enjoyable for a lifetime, and that the game is not rigged against. That's what I would make sure of.
Newsflash, okay? This has nothing to do with reality. You have absolutely no fucking way of doing that. Alright? Kids from privileged backgrounds, alright? Celebrity kids, lots of them commit suicide. Alright? You can come from the best environment, and you can still find life quite futile and hopeless. And there are things that will happen to you that there's no way to detect yet, even with our technology. We're not going to be able to know ahead of time that these things are going to happen to you, that you're going to get leukemia when you're 6 years old. All right, so there's nothing, you can't fail safe this game. So don't pretend it's a game you can fail safe, because you can't fucking do it. It's a rickety, shitty roller coaster. Statistical fact. And don't change the experiment by saying somehow you know how to make it all better and all safe. Because you don't know how to do that.
Because I wouldn't want him to go through the struggling and the suffering of being in a rigged game. And so that's the question. And is it a rigged game for at the moment? And I think it is. That's why I wouldn't want to give birth to. I don't want to have children right now. But that's still up to people to figure out.
Right, so you're just saying they have license, even though they haven't filled out any license, even though they can't even provide us a rational paragraph explaining exactly what need in the universe they're serving by perpetuating this, by creating another Adam and Eve to go create another Adam and Eve and another Adam and Eve and another Adam and Eve, right? They haven't. We can't even oblige them to do that much, to show any kind of thought or competence for them, some sort of mission statement that has something to do with some need being satisfied that doesn't have to do with a need of their own. Something outside of themselves. We can't oblige them to come up with a paragraph explaining exactly what they hope to accomplish. I mean, we can't even apply that much scrutiny to this God playing. We'll allow people to play God with new consciousnesses, and we can't even oblige them to make a rational argument why they have the right to do that. Fuck you.
And some people can't think about it, and they're just going to give birth, and they're going to cause a lot of trouble. That's why we're
that's why there's people who are anti-natalists, and they make analogies about drunk driving and gambling and nuclear power plants and other risk assignment, because they're trying to explain to people they really don't have a right to fuck with other people's lives. And then assholes like you just muddy the water. You just step into the water in your stupid retarded, your little retard yellow boots, and you just slop around and smash around and blah 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 blah. You don't accomplish a motherfucking thing. You don't add any clarity to this subject. You're just talking around in circles. You're for it, but you're against it, but you're kind of for it and against it, but against it on the for side, but a little bit on the side of the for of the against. I mean, fuck you. Waste of fucking time. Change your name.
That we're in right now. But that's still, I think that's more proper of an analogy to see it as giving, and to give a person the choice to
the choice to do experiments that impact somebody else. So we should give people the right to have bazookas. We should give people the right to build nuclear power plants in their backyard. So what if they radiate their neighbors? Their neighbors accepted the risk somehow, right? They gave them the stake. I mean, it's just bullshit. Why is this decision sacred, and all these other decisions that people, these other liberties that people might like to have, they're not sacred? How come I can't fuck with other people's? How come I can't even drive a car with shitty brakes? But these assholes can create living beings? Oh, make sense out of that, please.
Become a winner at the game, or not. And of course, this implies that being a winner is worth something in the game, you know, and that during the journey of during the gambling that goes on.
Well, look, we already know that winner doesn't mean a goddamn thing, because guess who's going to call himself a winner guaranteed? A guy with a 60 IQ. All right, so the dumber they are, the more they're going to be saying, I'm winning, I'm winning. So if they're retarded and dumb and stupid and fucked up, they're going to be saying, I'm winning. And who's going to be saying, I'm losing? That's right. The higher their IQ, the more likely they're going to be saying, well, it's kind of, mediocre too, I'm losing.
But the person finds meaning, finds enjoyment, and manages to have enough...
Bliss. The bliss of ignorance. Manages to find enough bliss through ignorance or flat-out delusion. Flat out fucking fairy tale, phantasmagorical, made up bullshit. So yeah, the people who can find comfort in lies will get by and say they're winning.
Enough of those things for it to be worth it. But if it's not, then either the person was incapable.
Well, the bottom line is, how is any of it worth it? Again, you still haven't justified any of it. You still haven't justified one victim, let alone 100, let alone 1,000, let alone 1,000,000. So how do you do this justification? How do you play this numbers game where you can decide that how many people should be subjected to losing for the benefit of you assholes who want to walk around saying I won?
Of making the right moves, of playing the right cards the right way, or the person was just came in a rigged game. And so I think there is partly a responsibility for the parent to be sure that you're not sending the kid in a rigged game.
Well, how is that responsibility going to be imposed? So that's just more bullshit, right? And it's certainly not going to be imposed if people keep saying, well, it's your right. That's right. Saying something is your right is not how you impose responsibility. Newsflash.
What if it's not? If we say that the game is not rigged, then it's about making sure that we're. Then it's about giving the liberty to the people to make the choice of whether or not this game is worth playing.
Again, why is the choice not given to the person whom you're gambling with their welfare? Again, the analogy holds as long as you understand that how the dice turn out has nothing to do with the person throwing them. Okay? If it's snake eyes, it doesn't mean the person who threw the dice loses. It means the new creation loses. They're the ones that get the implication of the snake eyes. The gambler has no stake. Alright? It's the welfare of the thing that never signed any piece of paper. There's no contract saying this asshole has a right to throw their dice.
Worth it. And that's people's choice. And that's just what it is.
Well, that's the way it is now, and people like me are going to try to get people to understand that the truly ethical way it should be is that until they have that mission statement, until they have a clear, really clear, well thought out statement saying why they need to conduct this human experiment again, then they have no right, and the right falls to the default. It falls to the fail-safe, which is you don't build nuclear power plants until you can prove that you can do it safely.
Just another quick addition to the video. I just had another thought about Gary's analogy that we're actually taking someone else's money and playing with it. If I'm taking
duh.
If I'm stealing money from someone to go gamble with it, and I lose it, I'm pretty sure I won't care. I've been stolen money from gamblers. I'm actually a professional. I'm a retired professional gambler. So I've been stolen money, and I saw a lot of really bad stuff in gambling, and I know that a gambler who steals money and plays with it, most of the time, some will have regrets, but for the most part, it's not.
What does this have to do with anything? I don't give a fuck, alright, about them having regrets. I give a fuck about putting a thought in their head before they commit the act. Alright, and for you to say, well, it's just too bad people are selfish motherfuckers and they're not going to give a damn, well then those people should be regulated, shouldn't they? Shouldn't they? Shouldn't they? They shouldn't really have access to somebody else's welfare if they can't even care, okay, that they stole the money. I mean, please. Professional thief.
It's not very distressing for the person. The person is already, he's already a very, very bad person. And so he doesn't have those moral standards to hold himself to.
Right, so you're basically making my argument now, idiot. Yeah, that's right, the average parent is a bad person. They don't have any kind of fucking ethical objective in mind. They're doing nothing for anybody but themselves. Period. That's all. It's just an ego trip. They just want something to have pictures of in their wallet, something to pass on their genetic code from their historical family whatever. They're just playing some sort of family jewels game, and race game sometimes, and some other fucking bullshit game that has nothing to do with anything admirable or decent. It's all just selfish crap, and they're going to play the game with something else's welfare to satisfy their bullshit ego, which is no different than the cop going 150 miles an hour down the street for a fucking ice cream cone. We wouldn't let cops do that. And you goddamn know it.
That he can feel terrible about it. And so when the gambler who's stolen money loses money, he doesn't feel too bad. But if we use this as an analogy to giving birth and then losing, so I'm losing my child after I've given birth. If it wasn't
brother, brilliant again. I'm losing my child. The gambler, you just said the analogy is the gambler's playing with somebody else's money. He loses somebody else's money. He doesn't feel bad about it. Now you're saying somebody's gambling. They lose their child. It's when was it assigned to be their child? When it is their property? Again, we were saying they're playing with the stake of somebody else's welfare. They lose somebody else's money. All right? They kill a child. Okay? That's what they basically do. They assign it to death. Alright, they sentence it to death. Alright, that's the end result. It dies at 6 years old from leukemia. They sentenced it with their fucking selfish jackass behavior. Period. Now, what's the penalty?
Really selfish, like the act of stealing money and playing with it and losing it. I wouldn't be very distressed. But since I really care about my child, of course I'm going to be very, very sad, and it's going to be a very distressful situation.
Oh yeah, well we see how most of the world reacts. They just have 15 more. So that doesn't even hold any weight, and it still doesn't matter. How does that do anything for the guy whose money got stolen? You're not explaining how the grief of the thief, okay, somehow does anything for the guy whose money was stolen. How does that make up for the theft? How does that make the world a better place so somehow that theft is worth it? Where's the justification? There's no justification in his fucking grief. His grief doesn't buy the goddamn victim back what it lost.
And that's because I've given birth to him. I've nurtured him. I've done a lot so that he could have a good shot at life.
Yeah, so the gambler said, oh, I really tried to win with his money, and I tried to make his money grow, and I tried to give his money to give his money more power and a better future. And yeah, of course I failed, but so what? That's not my problem, right? I mean, that's all you're saying. Who cares whether the fucking gambler has grief that he lost with somebody else's money? I mean, fuck that shit. Grief does not satisfy the fucking victim. I mean, that's like saying, well, the rapist is sorry. The rapist is sorry he raped the woman, so it's all good. It's all better. I don't think so.
That I would be a good parent. And so we can't say that it's only a selfish act, and we can't make the analogy that it's
well, you say we can't, and yet you provide no counter-argument. Exactly explain to me the non-selfish birth. Go point me to it, please. Go find one and point to it. Alright, go point me in the direction of the non-selfish birth that has taken place on planet Earth. Please, point me to it. There can't be, more than 2 on the whole fucking planet, but maybe you can find one of those, and then point me to it before you say that like this glibly, alright? Okay? If there's only 2 of them on planet Earth, then I guess you can't assume that's a premise of an argument.
And wasting it. Because otherwise we wouldn't feel the way we feel when we lose a child.
Well, again, remorse after murder, remorse after any crime. What the fuck good is the remorse do the victim? How does that undo the dead 13-year-old girl? Oh, that's right, it doesn't do a motherfucking thing. So that's just bullshit. I don't give a fuck if parents feel bad when their kid comes out retarded. I really don't give a fuck about their grief. What I would have liked is for them to explain why they had the right to conduct the fucking experiment in the first place, knowing that that was the fucking risk. Oh, that's all. Alright, I don't know if I'm going to do too many of his asshole videos, because as I've stated, they are poorly produced and the content is shit. So, till next time. It's got one Schopenhauer and Gary. I mean, you know, this is just such bullshit. I never even read Schopenhauer. I mean, I never even read Schopenhauer. I mean, why is this my obligation to be tied to this shit? I don't think he's wrong, but why you gotta play these games, you fuckers? Gary and Gary. Yeah, that would be better. Just deal with Gary, alright? I'm not gonna explain somebody else's philosophy. I'm gonna explain mine. Fuckers. Yeah, now enough of the video.